So I've been hearing a lot, and it's always bothered me because I wondered about it. Is when you hear sometimes you hear like content creators or people who are actors or somebody who are not in a 9 to 5 corporate kind of job, they always say that everybody hates their 9 to 5. So I went and did a study and or I looked into a study and kind of broke it down into this Google here so we could separate it out a little bit easier into Google Sheets. But here are the sources if you need them. But when you look at this, you can see that right here, high satisfaction of people's job, 88%. Now that's based off of very satisfied or moderately satisfied, right? And so often, people think that working at a 9 to 5 is simply one thing. Guys, I want you to know that it's not. So this is these studies, and we'll get to the core part here. It's not here to say that these studies are simply saying, "Oh, everybody just loves their jobs." It's saying people are satisfied, meaning they don't hate it. They're not burned out at the job. And a lot of things go into this. Okay. You know why? Because sit here, look, average weekly hours 39.6, short staff 17.7%. This means that if they're short staff often, this normally tends to happen more in healthcare. Obviously, in other corporate jobs, it doesn't matter, like call centers, stuff like that. It doesn't tend to hit the people as hard. Um, Enough time to be able to do their work, so deadlines and things like this. Supervisor helpful, management support psychological health, meaning mental health and stuff like that. Supervision, not supervision, supervision. Trust management, harass and threat network obviously would play a pretty big role in productive conditions. And so then these numbers are going to add up perfectly because I'm taking these numbers from the bigger study. Sorry, I'm looking over here at this screen. It's over here for me right here. But it comes from this bigger study right here. So my main point, my main point is why I kind of wanted to look at these numbers a little bit is that it is not true. It is just factually not true that most people hate their 9 to 5s. And the reason I'm so passionate about this is because there are people like me and people like you and most of us who work a 9 to 5, but we keep getting fed this stuff from a small pop. Hold on. Trying to keep my cool. Trying to keep my cool. It is coming from such a small population that says this to us. Those are the people who are 1%ers. Okay? Normally when you hear everybody hates their 9 to 5, it's either somebody parroting it, like a smaller content creator parroting somebody who's bigger, but it really comes from content creators who are in the top one, if not top 0.01%. The ones who are making life changing money, and even the ones who are just making any kind of money, right? Even somebody who's simply making somewhere between $50,000 a year as a content creator is in the top percentile of content creators. That's not like a 50%. No, the chances of you doing that is somewhere between like 1 to 5% to be able to make that money. That's less livable money as a single person. I'm not even talking about livable money if you got a family. That percent is going to get way lower. You're talking about people who are making somewhere between 80, 90, $100,000. That is like a 0.4% of making $100,000. And then you hear it from the content creators who are making millions, and they're the people who say that, oh, and you know what? Well, most people want to be streamers. It's like, no, most children want to be streamers. Let's go ahead and get that factual. Okay? It's children and young teenagers who want to be that, who want to be streamers, right? And that's because it's just like looking up to, it's what is in our face. Just like a lot of us wanted to, when we growing up, I don't know a lot of people who wanted to be an astronaut. That was just told to us, societal pressures, and that's the cool job. But what was really taught to us a lot was actors, athletes when I was growing up. Actors and athletes. That was the one that all of us wanted to be because it was the biggest thing. It was different. How can you tell a child, hey, do you want to grow up and be an insurance agent? There's too many jobs out there for kids to be able to pinpoint a 9 to 5. And so I think that always gets mixed up in there. So when you say these kids don't want to do these 9 to 5 jobs, because they obviously don't know what they are. There's too many jobs, even coming out of high school, that you will not be able to define. You're probably going to have probably about 10 jobs maybe you can name. But the first job that you're going to be able to name easily, lawyer, nurse, doctor, welder, engineer. Those are the things that are going to come up quickly. But nobody's going to think about receptionist. Nobody's going to think about an insurance agent. Nobody's going to think about, sometimes they think about plumber. But then when they think about plumber, they think about going in somebody's house They're not thinking about commercial plumbers. They're not thinking about guys who fix the pipes and who do a lot more than just fixing a toilet. It's hard to know that stuff until you look deeply into it. But there's no way a school can teach you every single job there is, right? Nobody's thinking about, oh, I want to be a lab tech, but oh no, I specifically want to be a radiologist lab tech. You know what I mean? Oh no, I just want to be a lab tech in general, where I just take blood and look at it and make sure everything. No, nobody knows about those jobs, because in order for you to know that, you have to work in those positions, right? And so I think it really gets mixed up when people say most people want to be streamers, because it's just an easy thing to say. It's very easy to say, and people know that become a lawyer or become a doctor is going to take years, right? Years to even get to that point, and you're going to go into mass debt versus a streamer. But what these kids don't know is they have a much higher percent. They have a much better chance of becoming a doctor than versus them becoming the next Ludwig, or becoming just even or even becoming a streamer that's making lots of money. Because I'm assuming when these kids want to say, I want to be a streamer, they're not thinking about, I want to make $50,000 a year. They have a way better chance of doing that anywhere else than if they were a streamer. So they don't know how small the percentage is, because these streamers make it seem, or these content creators or the Instagram people make it seem like it's easy. That's called survivorship bias. Okay, those are the people who made it to the other side. They don't see all the bodies that are getting stepped over in order to get to that process. I'm not saying it don't take hard work, but it's really, and it's I think it's a good analogy. It's really like telling a kid who's 10 years old and just picked up a basketball that, hey, you know what? You could be the next LeBron. It's just kind of crazy to say that, because the chances of them even being a basketball player who's on the bench as a professional and never sees a single game. There's a lot of basketball players that get drafted that never play a game. You don't even have a chance of being that guy or that girl. You have no chance of even being a player who doesn't even get to play, right? The chances of you getting to even be a starter at a D1 school, these percentages continue to drop. It's the same thing with streaming. To tell people, hey, here's how you become a streamer, it's like somebody saying, hey, here's how you become an NFL player. It's like, yeah, you can tell me, like, it's not that complicated to tell me what it does. What do I need to do to be a streamer? There's more intricate things into it, but it's too niche too. It's going to be very hard for you to be like, hey, you could be a variety streamer when you're a person who's never on the internet. It's going to be very hard for you to be a variety streamer. What if you're a person who doesn't like to react? What if you're a person who likes to teach math? Okay, streaming is going to be very different for every individual. So that makes your chances of it happening for you even smaller. And I hate that the only reason this gets pushed is because you believe that you, and I'm not saying this is even the majority of people, but us internet people get told time after time and time after again that we will hate our 9 to 5. And it is proven that it's just not true. In fact, one of the biggest factors was simply anybody who works 35 or less hours, they tend to have the highest satisfaction. And people who work somewhere between, and people who work anything 40 right in that area, they're fine. Anybody who works even 1 hour over 40, 1 hour over the 40 hours, it jumps to 10% chance of you burning out. It goes up by 10%. And so just keep this stuff in mind, man. There's so much more than just hating the job, right? Because if you find a job you actually enjoy, you don't even have to enjoy it. Because I don't care if you polled probably anybody, you're gonna have people that don't like their job regardless. And they might not say they like it. They may say they're satisfied with it. That's why we went with that instead of like, because like can be so many variables. But if you were to poll a bunch of streamers and you were to poll a bunch of entertainers and stuff like this and do the same thing, I guarantee you probably get around the same thing. Most of them are pretty satisfied. And that's fine. And so I think it always comes down to what are you doing and how much free time do you get? If you're working 60 hours, yeah, you're going to feel burned out. But if you're working 35, some people work 4 days a week at 32 hours a week. I used to work that schedule. It was beautiful. I never felt burnt out. That is the best schedule. If you can get a job that pays you enough within the 32 hours, work that job. Not the 410s. The 410s can still feel a little burny outy. Okay? If you work a job that works 32 hours or less and you get paid well enough, like if you can make $80,000 working 32 hours a week, do it. Don't get don't be one of those people like, oh, if I could be making more, if I was making, I could be making more if I was to work 40. No, you just increase your chances of burning out, so you'll probably end up making less by because you'll end up quitting the job. People who work 32 hours and less are going to be way more likely to be satisfied with their job, and they're probably going to work it longer if they're making enough because simply you get a lot more time to yourself. So that's one of the things that comes down to inflexibility. People just want to work when they know, either they want to know exactly when they're going to work or they want some kind of flexibility. In fact, that last part I have no numbers on. Based off of all of the things we went over, and there's about 20 categories, not just the ones I showed you. None of them actually talk about flexibility. And I don't think that most people care. I think people just want to know when they're going to go work, when they're going to get off. They don't necessarily want to have a sporadic they don't want to have a job where it's sporadic. Like, oh, I could go to job at 8 and then I could leave at 2. The next day I could come in at 10, work till. I don't think most people want that. Because it would be so scatterbrained to remember those things. I would rather just work a job where I know I'm getting off at this time so I can plan my job every day the same exact way. If I was going to work a flexible job, it'd be more like 3 months on, a month off. That would be better to me. Like a set schedule. Then after a month, hey, I'm not coming back. More like a project manager, more like that kind of stuff. Really trying to get into that. It's project manager. Have you ever heard a kid say, I want to be a project manager? No. Once again, it's one of those things that you just have no idea about, but you don't know you're going to enjoy until you're older. You wouldn't have told me if I was a young cat. When I was young, there's no way I would have said, I want to be a project manager. But today I do. It's going to take me a few years to get to that because I want to be a consultant too, but it's all good, man. So if you feel like you're working your 9 to 5 and you're happy and you love being with your family and you're good, don't listen to those suckers who say, oh, everybody hates their 9 to 5 just because you have to go to work. That's not really that bad. It's really not that bad. Especially if you have a really great job. Like I said, where you can breathe. It's not like a call center. Yeah, that probably suck at the job. But a job where you're getting to breathe, man. When I was working in some offices, I had my own office, my own little area. I could go to lunch when I felt like it. I could go to break when I felt like it. I could grind as hard as I wanted. Man, those are the kind of jobs we're talking about when we're talking about satisfaction, not the job you get right out of high school that pays $9 an hour. No, we're talking about adult jobs where you go to lunch when you want to. There's nobody telling you when to go to lunch. You just have to go at a respectable time. And that's it. Dude. Anyway, yeah. So don't believe it, man. If you're satisfied with your 9 to 5, it's all right, man. Just keep living.